Alrighty, we are back online. Darren, it's your cue.
I thought so. Steal my coming back
I'm
to the
sorry,
show.
I just
Talk
got nervous
Recovery,
there.
Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. There was getting some songs together. I was inspired by a meeting I was at the other night. A friend, a mutual friend of actually Reece and I, and all of us really, passed away in recovery, clean, and to involve family to sort of help ease the pain of loss and grief. There's an infinity medallion presented whenever somebody has passed away and clean in the program. And that really inspired me, although as sad a moment and situation it was. I mean, I think personally that's a goal. I mean, I'm not going to live forever. I know that.
Yeah.
You know, so that song was Doug's favorite song, "Fly Me to the Moon." I don't know, maybe it changed over the few years, but I remember the conversation where he was excited to introduce me to what he considered one of the best songs, like in the whole, throughout all genres. And I have my personal opinion on which one is that. It's not this one, but when I listened to it, it was the first time I heard it, and I was like, I know what he's talking about. That's a good song. "Fly Me to the Moon," Frank Sinatra. We got another song coming up at the end of the show, but right now we're back in studio. We have Reece sitting here with us to share his personal story.
Hey guys.
Thank you for coming down and being able to tell your story. So let's just get to it. Tell us a little bit about your life in addiction. What was it like?
Yeah, so if I really had to go as far back as I could, when I was little, I was always this naturally high energy individual. And then, long story short, before I became about 10 years old, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and I didn't know it at the time, but my lack of self-esteem and self-worth, that all took a major shot when I was told that, because I felt socially inadequate to everybody around me. Even when I was doing sports and everything like that, whether I was in addiction or when I was clean for those couple of years, because I started using at 13, I just didn't feel a part of. I always felt like I was on the outside, and my auditory skills weren't like on everybody's level or anything like that, right? So that's where my powerlessness actually started.
So, sitting here right now, a dapper young man, I've heard this story many times, right? What was the learning disability, if you will?
It was just like I was told, it was my hearing, where my left ear in particular was not as strong as my right ear, and my auditory skills were much below average.
So there was something that happened in your ear where you couldn't hear as clearly as
my right ear,
and
yeah.
that was given a label of a learning disability?
Yeah, and then I was, from what I remember, I was given these headphones, and then we did different hearing tests on each of the ears and everything like that. And my left ear, on paper, after they showed me, it was just not very good compared to the right ear, quite simply.
Wow.
Yeah.
So to be told that you have a learning disability, wow, that's a shot to the esteem.
And the reading skills as well, like the reading skills, like it was much below average as well, but that's improved a lot since I've gotten clean, kid you not.
Wow. So what was the first substance, if it was a substance that you used that sort of fixed that problem?
So that was marijuana. I was in grade 8. I went to Hillcrest Middle School, and I was trying to find some people to hang out with, and there was this girl that I was attracted to, and she was hanging around her friends. They were puffing around a joint, and I saw that, and I'm like, okay, I want to feel adequate with these guys, so I had a little bit of that. And then, lo and behold, I started only hanging out with them because of that, because then I was getting free drugs with that. And then, all in a long story short, pretty much, I was lying and manipulating to get what I wanted for marijuana, and then I just started using it to the point where I just didn't want to talk about anything that was going on. I just wanted to escape from life, and I just wanted to use that.
Mm-hmm. And that's See, that's what makes addiction a little different than just the drug that somebody's using, like the addictive properties. A lot of people argue marijuana is not addicting, you know. But as you describe that sort of low self-esteem, that not fitting in, I mean, and that's giving you that sense of inclusion.
Yeah.
Like, you know, any lost soul at the time is gonna want more of that.
Yeah.
Right. So how did it progress?
Believe it or not, the next one was actually caffeine, because I needed something to counterbalance the downer from the marijuana and to get the upper up, because I was told I was such a natural high energy guy. In order to hide my marijuana use, I decided, okay, I gotta start drinking energy drinks. And then when I needed more weed, I needed caffeine pills. And then I needed to get like 20 espresso coffees. Then I started putting caffeine pills in energy drinks, right? And it was just, that was the next one with that. And caffeine can be a very scary one because it is a legal drug and it's very normalized. I believe that's the right word. But yeah, it's very easy to drink a lot of that, and it just shows how no matter what, like, drug is a drug. It can take over your life in a second, right?
Sure. And at that age, you know, adolescent, you're learning that a pill in a bottle is helping me balance and control my mood.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so what did you do? Like, how did your education, how did your schooling, how was that all affected by that?
So again, it's like, I wanted to be, the thing is, like, when I was on all the caffeine, I was very talkative and then when I had a lot of weed, then I wasn't talkative, right? So I always did that counterbalance, and then what I would do is I would take the path of least resistance every single time I possibly could, whether it was communications instead of regular English, or whether it was math essentials instead of regular math, right? Like, I would always take that path of least resistance, and I would justify and rationalize why I should go to this learning center, because I was diagnosed with a learning disability. So that way I could just get away with doing the bare minimum and just go into the park across the street and just use and use and use. I stole money from my parents, and I made amends for that. And even then, there's still the odd time where I'm just like, man, I still can't believe I did that, because that's where my disease took me, right?
Right.
And yeah, it's just unbelievable. And like, I thankfully graduated, and I was still volunteering though. Like, I was a swim coach for BC Special Olympics. My older brother has autism, and I've been taking care of him throughout my whole entire life, even in addiction. So I needed all that caffeine to hide that, so that way I could still live through my heart to a certain degree with that, and I felt like I needed that to do that.
So here's an example of somebody that's got values, that's got morals, you know, that's trying to do all the right things, but looks in the mirror and you know, as I know I've been told, is not, you know, reaching my potential, which seemed to be a mantra in my life for so long. And you know, as you're picking those those easier classes, if you will, you're almost concluding and proving that that's all I'm really worth. That's all I can amount to. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's not a drug-induced perspective. That's a human perspective that now you're living with. Mm-hmm. So what is the next step? Did you get into other drugs? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So what was, like, I mean, it's important to sort of, like, what was the introduction? You know, I'm sure.
Yeah. So the marijuana, and caffeine again just wasn't enough, right? It's like I got so used to that starting at a young age, and even when I used the substantial amounts, and even if I did hundreds of dollars worth of it, it still wasn't enough, right? So I just started drinking a lot of alcohol, and I hid my addiction well. Like, family and friends knew I used more than the average person, but they didn't know actually how much I was actually using, because I hid that aspect really, really well. I would drink 60-pounders. I was snorting coke. I was doing all sorts of hallucinogens and everything just to get out of myself, right? And then I would justify again and say, like, okay, I'm going to do this one so that way I can get this experience, so that way I can actually further grow from this drug experience. And then maybe I'll actually get my crap together and actually be a responsible adult, right?
Mm-hmm. And at the time, like, sure, parents don't know to the extent, but they know and have certain gut feelings. What was the sort of the first conversation like for, you know, them getting involved?
It's actually kind of funny. My mom brought it to me the other day. It's like, even in my addiction, I would talk so much about like my girlfriends, and I would get so fully honest about that, a little too brutally honest, because I was trying to show my parents that I wasn't loaded so I can get fully honest with them about my life. And then they were like, my little brother, he doesn't necessarily do that, right? So it's like, it's just kind of funny where it's like there was some areas where I would be fully honest with them, and then there was the actual amounts of drugs I was putting in my body where I wasn't being honest about that. And it wasn't really until they found out that I stole money from them is where it really started to turn around and be like, okay, there's something really going on here.
Right.
Yeah.
So the old distraction method.
Yeah.
Look at over here.
Yeah.
I'm being honest about everything over here.
Yeah.
So, like, what was the next, intervention bottom wall that you hit?
Pretty much. So I used from 13 to 23, and when I was about 23, all the way, I just used the amount where I was scared for my life. My heart was beating super, super fast while I was sleeping, which is why I needed that weed to balance out all the cocaine and all the caffeine that I was drinking as well. So, and I had liver pains, I had kidney pains, and I was really scared for my life, and I didn't know what to do. So I went to Royal Columbia Hospital. They did some tests. They told me I will die in my 20s if I keep going at the rate that I'm going. It was when they said that, I didn't know this at the time, but I had to do a level of surrender, and I had to apply an open mind to spiritual principle to go to an addictions doctor and actually take his direction. I was scared for my freaking life.
So at 23,
23, yeah.
you were told you weren't gonna make it in your 20s.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was, I started crying. I had
Were your parents with you? Did
No,
you go home?
no, I hid everything about
Yeah.
this. Yeah, I was so ashamed and everything, and
That's a big weight to bear.
yeah, it
Like,
was a
like-
lot, right?
Yeah, you go home and that's the next thing you're gonna get honest about. So you keep this under wraps. You try to sort of take care of this on your own, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you saw an addictions doctor. What did he tell you?
Yeah, so he told me, he quite simply gave me an NA pamphlet, right? And then he said, find a meeting on there that finds comfortability. So God has always been a part of my life, whether I actually admitted it or not. I was raised in the Catholic faith, so I look at that as a blessing now.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw the word spiritual solutions, and that spiritual word in there made me feel like, okay, there's a way that I can connect with this. So I went to that meeting for my very first time. I was sweating, and I was already crying going into the hospital. I see people in the elevator, and I'm like, okay, this looks like my kind of crew, so I think I'm gonna go with these guys. And these guys, they kind of knew I was an addict just the way I was like going into the hospital, right? So then I went in there, and it's kind of funny. It's like, I don't remember what I said, but I shared for about 10 minutes, and I was crying my eyes out in that first meeting because I was so scared for my life. And my grandpa sponsor told my sponsor, now, even though he was fully loaded with sponsees at the time, here's your new sponsee right there. And then, lo and behold, my sponsor, he became a sponsor a couple days later pretty much, and I've been working my ass off in this program ever since because I'm doing my best to keep in mind of that bottom. And when I keep that in perspective all the time, not only the thoughts of using cut down, but it keeps me in a humble aspect and how I can further just continue to grow and focus on hopes, dreams, and goals.
Wow, that's a lot happened for you at your first meeting.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a lot of people describe, the terror of going into a situation like that, bunch of strangers, but not often that sense of like desire to share for 10 minutes. I mean, I remember I just wanted to get out. I didn't want people to look at me. You were there?
I was there.
Oh, so was it 10 minutes? Not an exaggeration?
I can't tell you about it though, because it's anonymous. I shouldn't have even told you that he was there. But
Wow.
yeah, everybody's heart went out to Reece. It was one of those moments where it's just like, this guy has no idea what to do. And everybody gathered around him, and yeah, I gave him a sense of direction and just some love and care, and I think that's just the value of me too. Like, yeah, we totally get you. You're good. Don't worry. I know you're crazy, but that's all right. We got you.
Yeah. and I think that's a part of what happens when a group of people, with compassion and empathy and relatability, just offer some words of like, hey, it's gonna be okay, and some hope. Like, I mean, that's the power of that. But you're also like all by yourself, no family support. because you haven't told them.
Well, I've always had I always have a loving support from my family. Like I cannot trade my family for the world. I love them so much, and they provided so much for me. But I was alone in the sense of actually going into that room and being broken and not knowing actually what to do.
Yeah.
And my family's been completely supportive ever since now too. Ever since day one, it's just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it's like the idea that if I was to get sick, if I was to get cancer, and not tell my family for years, they'd be choked.
Yeah.
Right? Because they'd feel ripped off of being able to support me in that, right? And it's like that's all I meant by not having family support. Like, until they actually know, the depth of what's going on, they're unable to support. And so you walk out of that meeting, I mean, people can't offer you perhaps medication for detox. They can't offer you professional therapy, and you know what I mean? Like, you're then leaving that hour meeting and you're back to your same environment, back to your same routines. Like,
I have my
how'd you
meeting
deal
list.
with that?
So I had a meeting list. I actually have it framed in my room right now, and that's a nice daily reminder where I get to wake up and I look at that meeting list that's framed in my room, like, hey, you know what, that's where I came from. There's 3 people on that list from my knowledge that are no longer with us, or at least not in the program anymore. And I get to look at that, and it just reminds me of how grateful I am of where I actually came from, what that first meeting was actually like, right? And my sponsor, he went to the last door recovery house. A recovery house is not a part of my story, but he had me go through their steps, and we did the guidebook steps at the same time. At first I developed a little resentment, and I'm like, why the fuck do I have to do all this extra work, right? Like, oh my god, like, why, right? Why me? I go into self-pity, because self-pity was my biggest defect when we wrote about my step forward. It still tries to take over me sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But then I had to flip it over to
Yeah,
the
because you were used
gratitude
to doing the easier classes.
Yeah.
Right. Give me that set.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that. Did you stay clean from that day forward?
Yeah. So I took my 2 years about a month ago now.
Right.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Right on.
Thanks.
I mean, I hate to say it, but that's a rare story of introduction to getting help, a doctor giving you a pamphlet, you going there, like, and having this, like, total willingness and accepting of the people and what the program has to offer. Like, I mean, yeah. So I guess, was it that level of desperation of the possibility of dying?
Yeah.
That sort of drove that motivation?
Yeah, and there was also a lack of fulfillment on the inside. Our Just for Today reading, I believe, a couple days ago was finding fulfillment, and I had my first using thought in a little over a year on that day. So I had to figure out, okay, I have to do a 1, 2, 3 on this, because it's a part of my daily routine. So what exactly am I powerless over? What's the deeper meaning about me even considering the idea of doing that, right? And I worked with a woman who has disability, and I did everything I could that day, but at the end of the day, she still stayed in those feelings, so I felt a little defeated and a little lost and a little angry, frustrated, a little bit of denial about that, right? So I was just like, okay, I thought that was the reasoning, but the underlying surface of that was the fact that I'm still learning how to make friends.
Yeah.
I work 40 hours a week. I spend 10 hours on non-billable hours working on my small business, and I haven't had time to make, like, friends, and I haven't had the willingness of time to make friends because of a self-centered based fear of not being liked.
So, a learning disabled, low self-esteem, now the news that the consumption of substances is going to kill you in the next few years, completely open, feel as if, like, you can live a new way to live a new way to live, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, completely motivated, found a purpose. What are you driven for today?
So at the ending of step 4, there was a hopes, dreams, and goals section, and one of the dreams of mine is to have my own small business. And because of my learning disability, my disease still tells me I'm too stupid to do this kind of stuff or anything along those lines, right? But I prayed about it, I applied the steps to it, and I have a small business now, which is called Life Quality Supports, and NA gave me that.
Wow.
I'm just so grateful for that.
Tell us more. What is this small business?
So the Life for Life Quality Support stands for love, independence, fulfillment, and empowerment. And through that, I developed a support strategy based on my genuine love to help people with disabilities. And then through that trust we build, they develop independence through the goals that we write down, short-term and long-term goals, and I meet with the families and we discuss that as well. And then they develop fulfillment when these goals start to get reached, and then they get empowered to keep going and feel like they're not labeled by their disability, that they're just like us. You know what I mean? Right. That's pretty much that in a nutshell.
So, a person you're working with, I mean, I could argue that like being just ignorant to how your addiction has manifested in your own life is a disability. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
But do you need a legitimate like physical, mental disability to involve yourself in this?
No, I don't. My day-to-day experience with my older brother, even though I was loaded every single day, I still was able to help develop some skills with him and everything like that. And I was in the field. There's a term I was told, it's like a high-functioning addict. And like in my last 2 years of addiction, I was still able to be a support worker, but I was almost going to lose my job because I was starting to call in sick all the time and everything like that, right? So I still love what I did, and I still gained a lot of experience those couple of years. But now the first 2 years in addiction and now the 2 years of it being clean is like a complete 180. There's no self-centeredness when I'm actually doing my job now.
Right.
It's all about them.
Yeah. So the morality of what you wanted to do has always been there. Just you needed to get your stuff together.
Yeah.
In order to truly be able to help someone.
Yeah, I have to love myself. Like there's the 4 levels of self. That's one of the big ending goals, is developing self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, self-acceptance, right? And since I developed those 4 levels of self for myself, I can now help people with disabilities realize that as well. So it's really cool.
Oh, good for you, man. I mean, yeah, like if you can find something in life as a profession or as a job that you love that comes with purpose, like you're truly living, you know. And not many people get to do that, right? It's sort of like, I mean, I guess a blessing out of all this ugliness and darkness.
Oh yeah.
Right? You must feel that.
Yeah.
You know, I guess, like some people say, it's, you know, having had gone through all of this, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So what's next? I mean, you're just starting out at this. What's your next goal?
So the next goal is to, again, like right now, I just got my website up earlier this week, so I had to work my butt off to get that.
Okay.
And I got that small goal there done. Longer term goal for me is to be fully self-employed in just my small business. Right now I have about 12 hours a week where I work at that, and then I have about 30 hours a week where I work for one of the old companies I work for in addiction, and another company that I got hired at when I got clean, and I couldn't get hired by them earlier on because they wanted more experience, right? So I get to use those experiences, and then I can further reinform my business plan, which is something I've been working on. The fear of not knowing what to do with this stuff, and like social media is like all this stuff, it's like brand new, right? So it's like my disease not only tells me I'm too stupid to do it, but there's the self-centered based fear where I'm like, okay, you know what, it's like I don't know what to do, but then I get to do that 1, 2, 3. I'm powerless over what's happening there. And then I get to apply humility and actually talk about it, what's going on, and then actually take action through step 3 and trusting God that He will guide me through what I have to do with each of these little goals to get to a long-term goal.
Yeah. Wow. I'm inspired. So what's the website?
www.lifequalitysupports.net. And even I was talking to a sponsor yesterday, he's like, there's a couple things I need to fix on there, and then my disease yesterday, I was like, I got impatient, I got frustrated because I couldn't move this little thing on there and put it to the bottom corner, so I'm like, ah. So I had to, again, take some deep breaths, do a 1, 2, 3, send an email to Squarespace, which is the guys that help me out with the website, and then I get to apply what they say, and then I get to further work on that before I go to a marketing event after, which is why I'm all dressed like this. Thankfully, I only have to dress like this once or twice a week.
Hey, dress up. That's what I say.
As Frank Sinatra fits right in with the Frank Sinatra song.
Exactly. Yeah. Good call.
But I think like even when you're saying about the frustration, I mean it's just something little like a website or whatever. But it's those are the things honestly like new in recovery that just don't forget it. Just forget it. I'll just work at McDonald's, or do you know what I mean? Like you just give up so quick. So awesome. Great.
Well, it's also an example of like just admitting Like I couldn't build a website, so I'm going to hire someone else that can, right? Why bother getting frustrated? It's something I should just accept. I have no clue.
That's the path of least resistance. If I was acting that, right?
Right? I think that's a step. Well, thanks for coming down, sharing your story. Again, it's just another great personal experience. You know, I've talked to so many people that were, they saw a doctor at a young age. You know, they're probably eating sugar before they go to school. Who knows? But they're labeled, you know, with something that, like, really that's a hard thing to accept as a kid, right? That you're now different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, later on, and they get well, and they get into mental health and wellness, and they find purpose, and it's like, that was never, like, it may be true, but it should have never have hindered that individual the way it did. You know, like, a lot of people, when they find out that these feelings they've had, it comes from something maybe that is labeled in mental health, and they feel a sense of empowerment that they now know how to go about finding solutions for this and living their life and you know, what support and resources to seek. It should be an empowering thing, right? So there's a great lesson in you know, the labels and what we're told.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Reece. You're listening to Talk Recovery on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. Are we ready to go out?
Tell everybody about New Year's.
You tell everybody about New Year's. New Year's is it's December 31st, which then leads to January 1st of the new year, which will be 2019.
Yes, it is. And Recovery Day is holding a fundraiser for Recovery Day BC 2019, and we're having a big New Year's Eve event at the Anvil Center. You can go to Recovery Day's Facebook page, and that's facebook.com/Recovery Day, and all the information's there. It's going to be a great party, so hope you can all make it.
All right, and we're going to leave you with a little Canadian Glass Tiger groovy little tune here. See you next week. This is Don't Forget Me when I'm gone.
And Miranda, before you go, one more time, a shout out. What can people do for Chalford House?
They can go to charlfordhouse.ca and vote, or they can go to IA Financial Group, this one right here, and vote. And they can share with everybody they know and ask them to vote. Vote for Charlford first, and share and ask those people to vote as well. Thanks for the opportunity to say this again.
She was on the show earlier for our first guest, and they're trying to get a Forever House, which is a $125,000 grant.